Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 273. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Happy Monday. I'm going to pick up where we left off in the last podcast. We were talking about the Steele Dossier. And if you haven't been following along with the past few podcasts, we are talking about the transition that Trump is making back into the White House. And we've said that he's been president-elect before. This is his second time being president-elect. And there's so many things that, in the United States short 240-year history, so many things that have never happened before that are in this story, in this narrative that I've been telling. And this is the second time that I believe there was one other president that was president for one term. There was another presidency that interrupted his second term, but Trump is at least the second president. I'm not sure who the first president is that had one term, another president, and then he had a second term. But I believe there is one other. But even if there was only one other, it's something that's pretty unprecedented. There is maybe the one example, but it's not something that's common. Let's just say that. It's not something that's common for a president to have a term, not be reelected, and then run again and then be reelected. So Trump's been president-elect twice. And a lot of this story that we're telling goes back to when he was president-elect the first time. He's president-elect again now, and he's assembling a cabinet that is going to go in and reform the Justice Department, reform the FBI, reform the intelligence community. And the reason that he's doing that goes back to what happened when he was president-elect the first time. So we've been telling the story about why the need for those reforms, why there is a need for those reforms at DOJ, at FBI, what's motivating President Trump. And in the last podcast, we were talking about the Steele Dossier. We're going to get back into this, pick up where we left off, talking about the Steele Dossier, the PP Dossier, the Trump-Russia Dossier is the many names of this dossier. And it was compiled as an intelligence report by British former intelligence officer. And like I was telling you in the last podcast, you're never really former intelligence officer. But Christopher Steele, former MI6 officer, he was commissioned by a company that was commissioned by Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton went out and commissioned Fusion GPS. Her campaign went out and paid money to Fusion GPS. Fusion GPS went and gave the money to the former British intelligence officer, Christopher Steele. And Christopher Steele compiled this salacious, this completely ridiculous intelligence report that it wasn't an intelligence report. It was sold to everyone as an intelligence report, but it was actually political opposition research. That's what it was. Political opposition research that was sold to us as an intelligence report. And it was completely ridiculous. It accused Donald Trump of being blackmailed, that he was being blackmailed by Vladimir Putin and the Russians, and that they had a tape of Donald Trump when he was in Russia, that he hired hookers to pee on him. That's why it's called the PP Dossier, because Christopher Steele in this report says that Donald Trump was in a hotel in Moscow, and that he got these hookers to come to his hotel room, and they had a camera. They did a golden shower on Donald Trump. They peed on him. This is just the most salacious part of this document. And there was other just really ridiculous accusations that this report made, but it was sold to us as an intelligence report. And it was actually political opposition research paid for by Hillary Clinton. And then this report, it was leaked to all of the media. Everyone in the media had this report. It was leaked to them. It was leaked to ABC News. It was leaked to NBC News. It was leaked to CNN. It was leaked to Washington Post, New York Times, all the print outlets. Everyone had this. Everyone had this report, but it was so ridiculous that nobody wanted to report on it, and it couldn't be corroborated. None of the facts in it could be corroborated. So all of these outlets didn't want to, report on this and burn their reputations. I mean, back then, I guess they had a little bit of a reputation back then, but they all had this report. It was all leaked to them. They all saw this salacious. I mean, can you imagine if this could be corroborated? I mean, if they all had it, it would have been a rush to be the first people to report this story that Donald Trump had prostitutes pee on him in a hotel in Moscow, and that the Russians had it, and they were running. And that was the other part, that the Russians were running him as president, as a Manchurian president, because they had this on him. They were controlling him. This is all in the report. So all the media had it, and none of them reported on it because they couldn't corroborate it, and the accusations in it were ridiculous. But they were all holding on to this throughout the entire summer of that election in 2016. And I got to say again that the circumstances in that election were unprecedented. You had the two major party candidates, the Republican Party candidate nominee and the Democratic Party nominee, both being investigated by the counterintelligence division of the FBI. Everyone knows about the Hillary Clinton investigation, but we don't find out about the Trump investigation until after Trump is already elected. We'll get to when we find out about the Trump. I haven't gotten there yet, but we're going to get to when Trump and everyone finds out that Trump was actually under investigation during the entire summer of 2016. So all the media had this report. Refused to report on it because none of it could be corroborated. But the FBI also got a copy of this political opposition research report. The FBI somehow got a copy of this political opposition research report. And you got to understand what the FBI did after they got this report, because that's what opened up. Well, we're talking about what opened up the investigation, the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. I want to get ahead, but we're going to talk about what the FBI did once they got this report. Before we get there, let's talk about how the FBI got this political opposition research report. How did this get into the hands of the FBI? Well, I mean, it was leaked to all of the media. Maybe someone in the media turned it over to the FBI, or, it was out there. Everyone had it. How'd the FBI get it? Well, we talked about Bruce Ohr a little bit in the last podcast, and Bruce Ohr was the Assistant Deputy Attorney General. He's pretty high up in the command at the Justice Department as I said assistant, it's Associate Deputy Attorney General. As the Associate Deputy Attorney General, he's pretty high up in the command. Associate Deputy Attorney General is a position in the Office of the Deputy Attorney General. So he's an associate to the Deputy Attorney General. And Bruce Ohr, as I was telling you in the last podcast, he got a demotion. He got a demotion because it was was learned that he was the liaison between not only Fusion GPS, which we're going to talk about here in a moment. His wife worked at Fusion GPS, Bruce Ohr. His wife, a woman by the name of Nellie Ohr, worked at Fusion GPS. Fusion GPS was the firm that Hillary Clinton hired to go out and to commission Christopher Steele. But Bruce Ohr was also in contact with Christopher Steele, and he's in the Justice Department. He's an associate to the Deputy Attorney General in the Justice Department. Bruce Ohr. Why don't you take a listen to this clip?
President Donald Trump has recently taken aim at a little-known Justice Department official. So who is Bruce Ohr? Ohr has worked for the DOJ since 1991 and reached the position of Associate Deputy Attorney General. But according to the Washington Post, he was transferred from that job in late 2017, and it's unclear what position he holds now. Trump's beef with Ohr stems from the Steele Dossier. His wife, Nellie, has worked with Fusion GPS, the company contracted to compile the information. Trump believes that Bruce Ohr funneled information from Fusion GPS to the FBI, and that information then played a role in the start of the Russia investigation.
Now listen. So Bruce Ohr's wife, Nellie Ohr, worked for Fusion GPS, the company, the firm that Hillary Clinton hired to go out and commission the salacious political opposition research that was sold to us as an intelligence report. Bruce Ohr's wife worked for that firm. And then Bruce Ohr was at the Justice Department, and he got a demotion when it was learned that he was secretly the liaison from the Justice Department to Christopher Steele and to Fusion GPS. So the FBI likely got the Steele dossier. When they got their hands on it, they likely got it from Bruce Ohr. That's what I would assume. Now, let's look at this document. This is a very important document because this document assessing Russian activities, we talked a little bit about it in the last podcast. This document was the document that was compiled by the three agencies under the DNI. That means 4 agencies, but it was actually 3 agencies that were responsible for this intelligence report. It says intelligence community assessment. So what it means by intelligence community assessment is that it came from the DNI. And we're going to talk in the podcast on Friday. We're going to get into the position of DNI. We're going to talk about Tulsi Gabbard because these people are not only afraid of Kash Patel and what Kash Patel is going to do at FBI and at the Justice Department. They're really concerned with Tulsi Gabbard, and the attacks on Tulsi Gabbard have been they've been really strong. They do not want this woman to be DNI. So we're going to get into Tulsi Gabbard and get into why. Same way we're talking and laying out the Justice Department's role in all this. I'm going to lay out the rest of the intelligence community, particularly the CIA, and their role in this, because everything that I'm telling you that happened to Donald Trump in 2016, this was all an intelligence operation. So when we come back on Friday, I'm going to explain to you the position of DNI, why it was created. It was created post 9/11. And so James Clapper was the DNI when all of this was going on. And just because this document was under the office of DNI, then it's called a intelligence community assessment, but it's not really from the overall intelligence community, the 17 agencies, as they told us. There was only 3 agencies within the intelligence community that were responsible for this report. And this report is assessing Russian activities and intentions in the recent U.S. elections. Now, there's a key word in this title of this report that you have to understand and language is so important, people. This word, this first word, assessing. What does that mean? Assessing. That this is what we've assessed. Do you have any evidence? No. Do you have any circumstantial evidence? No. Do you have anything? Do you have any hard facts that lead you to this assessment? And we're going to look at what the what the circumstantial and things that they say that are concerning them, but it's not any evidence. This is an assessment. This is what you have to understand, that this is an assessment. And in this assessment, then each of these agencies, they give a level of certainty that they have in this assessment. They can have high confidence in the assessment. They can have moderate confidence in the assessment. They can have low confidence in the assessment. So you got to understand that it's only three agencies, and each agency gives an assessment. This is an assessment, right? There's very little facts, and I've seen zero evidence, quite frankly, of these assessments. It's just, these are our assessments. This is the confidence we have in the assessment. Trust us. Okay. This is basically what it is. And you're talking about three agencies. You're talking about, it says right here, this report includes analytic assessments, drafted and coordinated amongst Central Intelligence, CIA, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the National Security Agency, NSA. And then you come down here and it says, where is it at? Right here. All three agencies agree with this judgment, the judgment that's in this report. All three agencies agree with this judgment. CIA and FBI, James Comey and John Brennan, have high confidence in this judgment. NSA has moderate confidence. So NSA, Mike Rogers at the NSA, they only gave the information in this assessment, they only gave it moderate confidence. John Brennan's FBI and James Comey, or John Brennan's CIA and James Comey's FBI gave this assessment high confidence. Okay, so there's only three agencies under the DNI, which is the fourth agency. Two of the agencies, FBI and CIA, gave this assessment high confidence, and the assessment is pertaining to Russia's intentions and activities in the elections. And they're making the case that the Steele Dossier is making in here, but they don't say anything about the Steele Dossier in this assessment. And they basically allude to the fact that Russia was attempting to meddle in the election, and the Russians preferred Trump over Hillary Clinton. They don't relate it back to the Steele Dossier. They just allude to the fact that this is the same stuff that's in the Steele Dossier. And remember, all the media, they're holding on to this. All the media, they have this, and they haven't been able to corroborate it. So they haven't printed it. They've exercised journalistic integrity, and they don't want to be discredited by publishing these salacious accusations about the incoming president. So they don't want to print it. They don't want to publish it, but they have it in their hand. So when this report comes out from John Brennan, James Comey, and James Clapper, this is a second intelligence report seeming to confirm the stuff that's already in the Steele Dossier that they already have. So that's why, if you understand why BuzzFeed finally published, because you got to understand this. This is when, so assessing Russian activities and intention in the recent election. So this second intelligence report from John Brennan, James Comey, Mike Rogers with moderate confidence, and James Clapper. When this second report comes out, this is when Trump was president-elect He wasn't president yet. He hadn't been sworn in yet. This is January 6, 2017, is that when they released this second intelligence report seeming to confirm what's in the Steele dossier that everyone has. So now you have two intelligence reports. You have the Steele dossier that's sold to us as an intelligence report, and they all have it, but they can't corroborate any of it. And it comes from a British former MI6 officer. You can't really run with that. But then you get a second intelligence report from the FBI, the CIA, and the NSA, from your own government. Now that has some weight. That has some weight, even though nobody trusts the FBI or the CIA, but they're going to handle that. I'm going to show you how they handle the lack of trust that the CIA and the FBI has, particularly John Brennan and James Comey at this point. How do you handle the fact that the public does not trust these people? I'm going to tell you how they handled that. But now you have a second intelligence report, and this intelligence report comes out again when President Trump was president-elect on January 6, 2017. Well, if you notice, when BuzzFeed published the Steele dossier, it was 4 days after that. BuzzFeed published the Steele dossier on January 10th, 2017. So 4 days after. So this is crazy, people. The media had this thing. They leaked this thing that was supposed to be an intelligence report to all the media. They had it. And they didn't want to publish it because they couldn't corroborate any of it. And then and the people that leaked it to the media, they wanted them to publish it, and they were angry that they didn't publish it. We need these guys to come. We need this information to come out about Donald Trump. So they compiled this phony document, and this document is so phony. I don't have time to go into it. You should go and you should read this document. It's public, assessing Russian activities and intentions, where it makes all these accusations about what Russia did in the 2016 election. No evidence. There's no evidence in here at all. And the accusations in this document are completely ridiculous. Look, 3 agencies: CIA, FBI, NSA. There's only 3 agencies responsible, not all 17. We assess with high confidence that Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered an influence campaign in 2016 aimed at the U.S. presidential election. The consistent goals of which were to undermine public faith in the U.S. democratic process. So if anyone is calling into question the democratic process and saying that the elections aren't fair or anything like that, then that's Russian disinformation. So you understand how this works. So anything that's in this report, if you find anyone doing this, then they are doing it because they're motivated by promoting Russian disinformation. They wanted to harm Hillary Clinton's electability and potential presidency. So anybody promoting anything to harm Hillary Clinton, potential presidency and to hurt Hillary Clinton was Russia. That's Russian disinformation. It's coming from Russia. We further assess, no evidence, just an assessment. Putin and the Russian government developed clear preferences for President-elect Trump. So they preferred Trump against Hillary Clinton. Anyone who is promoting Trump they want what the Russians want. So if you want what the Russians want, you're promoting what the understand how this works. When it appeared that Moscow, as Secretary Clinton, it appeared to Moscow that Secretary Clinton was likely to win the election, the Russian influence campaign then focused on undermining her expected presidency. So anyone that is online sharing stuff, promoting stuff that undermined Hillary Clinton is promoting Russian disinformation. So you go through this thing. It's all ridiculous. It talks about RT and how RT was used. Just completely ridiculous. No facts in this at all. But when this report came out, it came out from our intelligence community. This isn't the British. This isn't some former British spy. This came from our intelligence community, from our FBI, our CIA, our NSA. So now BuzzFeed, now they can publish it. And 4 days later after that, then BuzzFeed published the Steele Dossier. This report was published by the James Clapper's office, the DNI. The DNI published this, but then 4 days later, after the DNI published this nonsense, then that's why BuzzFeed 4 days later published the Steele Dossier, which was nonsense, all nonsense. But then after the DNI published this report, for some reason, this is why I was telling you that nobody trusts the CIA and the FBI, but they were going to do something about that lack of trust that the CIA and the FBI have, and instead of this report only coming from these three agencies, they started to tell the story that the report came from all 17 agencies, all 17 components of the intelligence community. They started to tell this lie to give this report more credibility, because this report, the report that came from John Brennan and Comey and Clapper, this report, like, again, was ridiculous, and it's only an assessment, and it had no credibility. No one would take this thing seriously unless you accredit it to the entire intelligence community, that all 17 agencies. And this is the lie that they told to give this report credibility. And this report supports the Steele Dossier. So the facts in the Steele Dossier, which can't be corroborated, are supported by the phony intelligence report that Clapper puts out. And this report only comes from Clapper, Brennan, Comey, and NSA. But to handle that lack of credibility, they credit the entire intelligence community, all 17 agencies. So if you doubt what's in this report, then you're not only doubting James Comey and Clapper and Brennan, you're doubting the entire intelligence community. How dare you doubt the entire intelligence community? But that's what they did. Take a listen to Hillary Clinton. And this was in a debate just before the election in November.
I think that this is such an unprecedented situation. We've never had a foreign government trying to interfere in our election. We have 17 intelligence agencies, civilian and military, who have all concluded that these espionage attacks, these cyber attacks, come from the highest levels of the Kremlin, and they are designed to influence our election.
So 17 agencies that have all concluded the facts that are in this report, is what she says. And I just noticed that this report doesn't come out until January, but Hillary Clinton is already in a debate before the election claiming that these facts come from 17 agencies. How would she know that? How would she know? Because this report doesn't even come out until January, and this debate was in October. So how would she know to even say this, that these 17 agencies? And again, remember, she paid for the Steele Dossier. She commissioned the Steele Dossier. I thought that was weird, but they all started saying 17 agencies. Here's Richard Clark.
Facts are facts. And when you get a lot of experts agreeing on the facts, sometimes they're wrong. But when you get 17 intelligence agencies agreeing on something, I used to be on the intelligence board. I always voted no, just so it wouldn't always be 17-0. When you get all of them agreeing on something, that's rare. That's unusual.
That's rare. That's unusual they're all to agree on something. So 17 agencies, they basically insinuating that all of these agencies, all 17 components of the intelligence community, are responsible for the report, and they all agreed. They don't even tell you that there's not only is there only three agencies. One of the three agencies gave the assessment moderate confidence. The NSA doesn't even give it high confidence. They don't tell you that. They tell you it's all, and this is to give the report credibility again. This is on The View. Take a listen.
On the heels of 17 intelligence agencies confirming that there was meddling in our election. We have a foreign power who openly says, I want to destabilize this democracy. Yeah. And a lot of that war played out in cyber attacks on our social media.
That
was bullshit. 17 intelligence agencies confirming.
As you know, the IC was a coordinated product from three agencies. CIA, NSA, and the FBI, not all 17 components of the intelligence community.
Not all seven. So James Clapper had to come out in congressional testimony after they started telling the lie over and over again that it came from 17 agencies. All 17 agencies are responsible for the report. James Clapper had to come out and say, no, it wasn't all 17 agencies, only 3 agencies, but they let the lie go out through all of the media. All of the media told the lie that it was all 17 agencies to give the report credibility. And then, Clapper has to address it when it becomes a scandal that you guys are lying to the American people, telling them that this intelligence report came from all 17 agencies. Never forget Bill Maher.
All 17 of our intelligence agencies say that. You would agree to that, right?
Well,
all 17 of our intelligence agencies say that. All 17 of our intelligence agencies say that.
So we can get into the back and forth and into the minutia of that letter you're talking about, because actually
letter.
The 17 agencies.
Letter. He's talking about this report. I don't know why he calls it a letter, but he's talking about this intelligence report. We can get back and forth into the minutia of this intelligence report. That it's only 3 agencies, but it wasn't 17 agencies. And then even from the Obama administration, take a listen to Susan Rice, 17 agencies. This is not only coming from the media, it's coming from the Obama administration, 17 agencies.
Blow the whistle on the Russians.
Before
the election.
We did blow the whistle on the Russians on October 7th, and that came as soon as the intelligence community and all of its component parts, 17 agencies.
I just realized what Hillary Clinton is talking about in this debate when she says 17 agencies. Because I was just asking, how could Hillary Clinton have known about this report? This report doesn't come out, isn't published from the DNI until January of 2017. But in this debate in 2016, in October of 2016, Hillary Clinton is already talking about the 17 agencies. And I was asking, how could Hillary Clinton have known about this claim of 17 agencies pertaining to this report? But Hillary Clinton's not talking about this report. And I just realized it because of what Susan Rice says here, is that we came out in October 7th. She's talking about this letter. This is what she's talking about. I didn't realize that. Hold on. This is what Hillary Clinton is talking about and what Susan Rice was just talking about. This was a letter that on October 7th, 2016, that the DNI, who is James Clapper, and the director of Homeland Security, who was Jay Johnson at this time, they put this letter out on October 7th. This was after WikiLeaks had published all of the Podesta emails, the Hillary Clinton or DNC emails showing that they had rigged the primary for Hillary Clinton against Bernie Sanders. And this was a letter that, so this was the letter that Hillary Clinton is talking about in the debate. This letter still doesn't say anything about 17 agencies. It was just put out by the DNI. So anything associated with the DNI is all 17 agencies. But this is the letter that Hillary Clinton is talking about. Let's just read it real quick. 3 paragraphs. U.S. intelligence community is confident that the Russian government directed recent compromises of emails from U.S. personnel and institutions, including from U.S. Political organizations. The recent disclosure of alleged hacked emails on sites like DC Leaks and WikiLeaks by Guccifer 2.0 online persona are consistent with the methods. Remember, Hunter Biden's laptop was consistent with the methods too, consistent with the methods and motivations of Russian directed efforts. The thefts and disclosures are intended to interfere in the U.S. Election process. Such activity is not new to Moscow, so they're blaming the Russians. This is DNI and DHS. It doesn't say anything about 17 agencies in this letter, but this is what Hillary Clinton is talking about, and then this is what Susan Rice is talking about here. So 17 agents. Go back here.
That the Obama White House did not decide earlier to blow the whistle on the Russians. Before the election.
We did blow the whistle on the Russians on October 7th, and that came as soon as the intelligence community and all of its component parts, 17 agencies, came to a consensus conclusion that we took the extraordinary step of making public that the Russian government at the highest levels was involved in an effort to play in our electoral process. That information was put out to the American people in a statement from the Director of National Intelligence and the Secretary of Homeland Security. Very unusual act designed to put on notice the American people, the secretaries of our 50 states whose responsibility it is to protect the integrity of our electoral infrastructure, and to members of Congress who had been previously briefed as well on the import of this. So we did, in fact, put that information out as early as we had that consensus view with confidence, high confidence.
So consistent consensus view with high confidence. She's talking about this letter that comes from Clapper and Jay Johnson. It's not all 17 components of the intelligence community. They just say that because it comes from the Department of DNI, who the DNI is over all 17 agencies. But the conclusion, you don't have a consensus view from all 17 agencies. That's still a lie. But this is how Hillary Clinton started using that lie in October. So they started telling the 17 agencies lie going back to October 7th. And then this document comes out again from Clapper, Comey, John Brennan, and Mike Rogers, those three agencies with DNI. And then they start telling all 17 agencies again. It's not 17 agencies. And Donald Trump even called them on the 17 agencies lie. The media, watch this part.
And that was necessary in the right.
I heard it was 17 agencies. I said, boy, that's a lot. Do we even have that many intelligence agencies? It turned out to be 3 or 4. It wasn't 17.
The other thing that was fake news coming from President Trump is when he said, well, I keep hearing it's 17 intelligence agencies that say Russia meddled in the election. I think it's only 3 or 4. Where does that number come from? Where is this 3 or 4 number come from?
The 3 or 4 number comes from the report itself. That Clapper even says, and Clapper's not talking about the letter that he sent out with Jay Johnson on October 7th, when Clapper addresses the report and that it only came from 3 agencies. He is addressing the assessing Russian activities, which came out in January. So basically they put this letter out. And this is a very important sentence in this letter, that they put out on October 7th. Some states have also recently seen scanning and probing of their election-related systems, which is, in most cases, originated from servers operated by a Russian company. However, we are not now in a position to attribute these activities to the Russian government. That's a very important part. In October, when Clapper and Jay Johnson put out this letter, they say, we are not now in a position to attribute these activities to the Russian government. Well, when this report comes out from the 3 agencies that they told us it was all 17 agencies, and this report comes out in January, between October 7th and January, they were in a position to say, yes, this was Russia. Russia was doing all this stuff. And this is just mind blowing. This is mind blowing. Again, all of this, again, is supporting the Steele Dossier, which has the most salacious and scandalous accusations. BuzzFeed publishes after this report comes out and is made public. It's an overall scandal. Pardon everyone now. Everyone's going to get a pardon who was involved in this scandal now. This is James Comey. I want you to listen to a little bit of what he says about the Steele Dossier.
Jane Mayer wrote a very comprehensive piece in the New Yorker about Christopher Steele's dossier and about Christopher Steele. Is he considered reliable, according to your sources, as an intelligence agent?
Yes.
What's your assessment of that dossier? How should we consider it? As raw intelligence, as unverified, as rock solid true? What?
As it was described to me when it came in, it was raw intelligence, so a series of reports from a credible person with a reliable track record and a known, experienced, and source network in Russia. And so it was something to be taken seriously. It didn't mean that it was all true, but it was to be taken seriously. And its core assertion was corroborated by other intelligence. Its core assertion being the Russians have a campaign going on to interfere in the American election.
Now listen to what he says. He says that that the core assertion in the Steele Dossier was confirmed by other intelligence that it was true. The core assertion was that the Russians were trying to interfere in the 2016 election, and that was true. The intelligence report that we put out on January 6th, that was our assessment. That it was true. Moderate assessment from the NSA, but my office, the FBI, and John Brennan's office, they gave it high confidence. So, you know, if you're using other intelligence to support the Steele Dossier, then the core assertion of the Steele Dossier is true, that the Russians wanted to meddle in the election. Now, the stuff about the golden showers and the hookers and all that stuff, maybe that stuff wasn't true, but the core assertion was true, is what James Comey is saying here.
And a known, experienced, and source network in Russia. And so it was something to be taken seriously. It didn't mean that it was all true, but it was to be taken seriously.
Oh, they took it seriously. It was something. So listen, he's telling you that when we got the Steele Dossier, it was coming from a known former British spy who had familiarity in Russia. He knew Russia. We took this document seriously, is what James Comey, the director of the FBI, the PP dossier that had all this, that the PP dossier that was actually political opposition research, but we took it seriously as a intelligence report in the FBI, is what you hear the then director of FBI saying here, that we felt that it was coming from a credible person, that we felt that the information in it was credible, and we took this information seriously, is what James Comey says.
Dossier, how should we consider it? As raw intelligence, as unverified, as rock solid true? What?
As it was described to me when it came in, it was raw intelligence, so a series of reports from a credible person with a reliable track record and a known, experienced, and source network in Russia.
So he was a knowledgeable person, a credible person. When we got this intel, we believe it was intel. When they first get it, he doesn't know anything about Fusion GPS and that Hillary Clinton paid for it and that it's political opposition. He believes this is a real intelligence report from a credible British intelligence agency who is familiar with activities in Russia. We took this thing seriously.
Christopher Steele's dossier and about Christopher Steele. Is he considered reliable, according to your sources, as an intelligence agent?
Yes.
What's your assessment of that dossier? How should we consider it? As raw intelligence, as unverified, as rock solid true? What?
As it was described to me when it came in, It was raw intelligence, so a series of reports from a credible person with a reliable track record and a known, experienced, and source network in Russia. And so it was something to be taken seriously. It didn't mean that it was all true, but it was to be taken seriously. And its core assertion was corroborated by other intelligence. Its core assertion being the Russians have a campaign going on to interfere in the American election.
You got the lucky job of going to see Donald Trump, as well as President Obama, and in the midst of a larger briefing, explain, or at least summarizing what was in this Steele dossier. I think it was Vice President Biden said while sitting there, "I cannot believe we're discussing a golden showers tape here in the Oval Office," and you could hardly deny him his incredulous reaction. How did Donald Trump react to this?
Now, this is very important because James Comey, at one point, he goes to both Donald Trump and to Barack Obama, who is Barack Obama is the then president. Donald Trump's the incoming president. James Comey, the FBI director, he goes to both of these men and he tells them that about the Steele dossier and tells them about the accusations in the Steele dossier. Very interesting. He still doesn't tell Donald Trump that Donald Trump is under investigation when he goes and has this meeting with him. He doesn't tell Donald Trump that you've been under investigation all these months while you've been campaigning. We've been spying on you. He doesn't tell him that. He didn't tell him that we got a FISA warrant on a member of your campaign and we've been spying on you for months associated with this Steele dossier or with the information that's in this Steele dossier. He doesn't tell Trump that. He just tells Trump about the accusations that are in the Steele dossier and when he goes in and has this meeting. I don't know what he tells Barack Obama, but supposedly when James Comey goes and meets with Barack Obama, that's the first that Barack Obama has heard anything about this. And then when he meets with Barack Obama and then he meets with Donald Trump, again, this is James Comey trying to get out in front of this and to get the information out there when he goes and meets with Trump. But he doesn't tell Trump that the FBI has been investigating Trump. Trump still doesn't know that he's under investigation when James Comey is having this meeting with him. All right, let's listen.
Showers tape here in the Oval Office, and you could hardly deny him his incredulous reaction. How did Donald Trump react to this?
I briefed him at the end of our briefing to him of the intelligence community chiefs about the broader Russian intelligence community assessment. And as I explain in the book, I spoke about prostitutes in Moscow. I didn't go into the rest of that. I was uncomfortable enough.
Were you nervous going into that meeting?
Yes. Yeah, I was. I was about to meet with the new president and talk about prostitutes in Moscow.
Yeah.
And so it was a bit of an out-of-body experience for me, honestly.
Us too.
Yeah. And so I didn't go into that other detail. I figured that was notice enough. And he reacted, as I recount in the book, very defensively and interrupted me and said, "Do I look like a guy who needs the services of prostitutes?" As I say in the book, I assume that was a rhetorical question. And so I didn't.
Wow, so it's no wonder that this guy got fired. I guess he's going to get a pardon now. But honestly, I'm going to tell you when we get further into this on Friday and start talking about the CIA's role, particularly John Brennan's role. Honestly, I think that John Brennan was the one running the whole thing. I don't even think that Comey knew what was going on, quite frankly, and that he and the FBI, in some circumstance, they were set up. Maybe him, but we'll get into that on Friday. But yeah, so they took the Steele dossier seriously. They thought that it was coming from a serious intelligence official, and they felt like it was something that they need to look into and investigate. This is Andy McCabe. Something that you should also know that is really interesting. All these guys, they went and worked for the networks. Andy McCabe had a contract with CNN, still is on CNN as a contributor. He's on MSNBC as a contributor. James Clapper in the 4 years of the first Trump term was a contributor on CNN, and John Brennan was a contributor and is a contributor on all of the networks. So what I'm telling you is that while these guys, I don't get there yet. We'll get there in a moment. But these guys, while Trump is going into this, the Mueller investigation, the special counsel investigation that started as the Crossfire Hurricane investigation and leads into this special counsel investigation that lasts for Trump's first 2 years in office, completely destroys his first 2 years in office. These guys that were running the Crossfire Hurricane investigation, they come onto the media. Clapper, Brennan, McCabe, they come onto the media and they're there as commentators, telling their side of the story, shaping the narrative from their point of view on the media during Trump's 4 years in office. So they're on the media. They're using their security clearance to come on the media and leak information that they shouldn't be talking about, or allude to information in a way that's going to give you the idea without leaking it. These people are very skilled. They know what they're doing. So they're on the media during Trump's 4 years, while this stuff is coming out and Trump is being accused of being a Russian, and they're on the media giving narrative. But this was a HBO a special, and I want you to listen to Andy McCabe. Andy McCabe, again, was the deputy FBI director while all this is going on. He was James Comey's second in command. Take a listen.
Did Steele have a reasonably good reputation with the FBI?
He was described to us as someone who had a very sound record of reporting.
Talking about Christopher Steele again. Christopher Steele, the former British intelligence officer who's responsible for the Steele report. Just like you heard James Comey just say, he was credible. He was someone we trusted. We entrusted his information. McCabe, second in command at FBI, says the same thing.
He was described to us as someone who had a very sound record of reporting on other cases, criminal cases, organized crime cases in the past.
Did you see this material yourself?
Not initially, but some weeks later, I ultimately was given a copy of those reports.
And what did you think?
They're incredible. And I say that not, incredibly great or incredibly terrible, just incredible. You read them, and there were certainly details in there that were consistent with other collection that we had.
Other collections. So listen. So there were details in the Steele dossier that was supported by other collections that we had. We had other collections of stuff, other assessments that we had that supported what was in the Steele dossier. That's what Comey just said, and that's what McCabe just said. They're saying the exact same thing, that the other assessments that we had supported what was in the Steele dossier, even though the things that are in the Steele dossier were ridiculous and, what does he say, fantastic.
Incredibly great or incredibly terrible.
Incredible. He says incredible, not fantastic, but they're also fantastic.
They're incredible. And I say that not, incredibly great or incredibly terrible, just incredible. You read them, and there were certainly details in there that were consistent with other collection that we had. And then there were details and claims in those reports that were just like things you would never imagine seeing in an intelligence report. The
like
really
golden showers
stuff about the president and his activities in Moscow. And, it immediately screams out it screams out to you from like two directions. Like it says like your gut instinct wants to be like, this can't possibly be true. But at the same time, you realize, well, there's enough in here that's close to what we already know, such that we really need to now spend some time figuring out if this is accurate or if it's not.
We need to spend some time figuring out. What are you talking about? You mean an investigation? Is that what you're talking about, McCabe? That we need to investigate? That there's enough in here that's true that we need to investigate? Again, he's talking about the Steele Dossier. This is very, very important because the FBI later, when the stuff starts coming out, that the Steele Dossier was bogus, that it was paid for by Hillary Clinton, and that it was a political opposition report and not actually an intelligence report. These guys start changing their tune and they start saying, well, the Steele Dossier had nothing to do with the investigation that we opened into Donald Trump. It was all the other stuff that supported the Steele Dossier is the reason that we opened the investigation into Donald Trump. It had nothing to do with the Steele Dossier. But here you have Andy McCabe telling you that there was enough in the Steele Dossier. And we had some other reports, and we know what the other reports are. They're actually ridiculous. Ridiculous. You got to go and read this document. I don't have time to take you through it, but the accusations in this assessment are ridiculous. But they had other reports that supported what was in the Steele Dossier, so we had to take a look, investigate. He's saying that we had to investigate. This is what he's describing here is how the Crossfire Hurricane investigation started.
It screams out to you from like two directions. Like it says like your gut instinct wants to be like, this can't possibly be true. But at the same time, you realize, well, there's enough in here that's close to what we already know such that we really need to now spend some time figuring out if this is accurate or if it's not.
What was the FBI able to confirm about the Steele reports? You were able to actually run down some of the details and confirm that some of them were in fact accurate?
What we quickly found out was many of the things represented in the Steele reports were in fact true.
Many were true.
However, what was harder to determine was whether or not they were based upon actual conversations and a source or a subsource picking up information, or were they just re-reporting things that they had already seen, in the newspaper? Or, for instance, if the report includes the fact that Carter Page gave a speech on July 1st in Moscow, did he provide that because he was there at the speech and saw it, or did the source provide that because they just saw it reported on in the newspaper days later? That's
Who cares if it was
harder.
Who cares if it was publicly reported? It's not a secret. Who cares?
Gave a speech on July 1st in Moscow. Did he provide that because he was there at the speech and saw it, or did the source provide that because they just saw it reported on in the newspaper days later? That's a much, much harder, much bigger challenge when you're trying to vet information, is to understand its kind of temporal relevance.
When I read it, it read very much like it was prepared by a trained intelligence professional. Just the way it was written, the language it used, and the format. And when I learned that a former officer of the British intelligence service, MI6, was the one who had put the dossier together, I was not surprised at all. Because, again, when I read the dossier, it looked like it had the feel of an intelligence report. But since it wasn't a CIA document, a CIA or FBI or whatever else, there was no way to dig down and to learn about the accuracy and validity and reliability of those.
There was no way to dig down. It read like an intelligence report, looked like an intelligence report, and I was surprised. I wasn't surprised to find out that it was a former MI6 agent. We work with them all the time. This guy, probably one of the most evil men to ever serve as DCI, and that's saying a lot. You got men like George H.W. Bush, Casey, Dulles. This guy is the bottom of the barrel right here, acting like he didn't know what was going on with this report. He says it read like a report. We didn't know that Hillary Clinton paid for it, and it was a political opposition report. We thought it was an intelligence report, is what Brennan says. Sure, buddy.
It looked like it had the feel of an intelligence report. But since it wasn't a CIA document, a CIA or FBI or whatever else, there was no way to dig down and to learn about the accuracy. And
You're the CIA. You're the CIA, buddy. There's no way to dig down and determine the accuracy of the report, is what you're saying? The CIA couldn't determine the accuracy of the report, is what John Brennan says. But he says it looked like a real intelligence report. We have to take it seriously. CIA, FBI. Yeah, it looked like a real intelligence report. We had to take it seriously. We had to investigate. Is Christopher Steele a trustworthy agent? Did you take the report serious when you got it? James Comey. Yeah, we took it seriously. We had to take it seriously. There was no way to dig down and determine the accuracy, the director of Central Intelligence says, but it looked like an intelligence report. We had to take it seriously. And then now the FBI, now that it comes out that it wasn't a real intelligence report, that was political opposition paid for by the political opponent of Donald Trump. Now they say that it wasn't the Steele Dossier that opened the investigation, that started them down the road to looking into Donald Trump's connection to Russia, spying on Donald Trump, spying on his campaign, spying on in the early months of his presidency. This scandal, I swear. This is a huge scandal. Now they're saying that the reason that this investigation was open was because of this guy, George Papadopoulos, and a meeting that he had with a diplomat from Australia in a bar in London. Again, this is a intelligence operation run by the Five Eyes. It's an intelligence operation that not only includes the United States intelligence departments, but the intelligence departments of every English-speaking country in the world, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and England. That is the five. Those are the five, and the United States make up the Five Eyes country. And this was an intelligence operation that was run by Five Eyes, or at least representatives from the Five Eyes countries are all involved in this. The diplomat from Australia, the Steele Dossier comes from former British intelligence officer Christopher Steele. There's others that we'll get into when we tell most of this story. But now they say that it wasn't a Steele Dossier that initiated the investigation, the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. It was a meeting that this guy had with a British diplomat in London, which was an intelligence operation. They ran it. It doesn't matter if it was the Steele Dossier or Papadopoulos. It was an intelligence operation. They ran an intelligence operation on Trump. And it doesn't matter if Papadopoulos is the reason it initiated or the Steele Dossier. It was an intelligence operation. They threw honeypots at this guy. They threw intelligence officers from all over the world at this guy. But Papadopoulos wasn't the reason that the investigation was initiated. I want you to listen to what James Clapper says here. We're almost done. But again, James Clapper was the DNI. He's the head of all 17 intelligence agencies. And I want you to listen to what he says here.
And to be clear, the dossier was not the seed that launched the entire investigation, counterintelligence investigation.
No, there were other factors. That I think were the stimulus for the investigation and the revelation of.
See, they don't want you to know. They don't want the dossier cannot be the catalyst for opening the investigation, even though that it was
not the seed that launched the entire investigation, counterintelligence investigation.
No, there were other factors that I think were the stimulus.
I think you're the DNI, bro,
and the revelation about George Papadopoulos, which was not a name on my radar scope when I left, I think also was another factor.
Listen to what he's saying. So he's saying that when I left DNI, the head of all the intelligence agencies, he's the one that DNI, his office is the one responsible for all these intelligence reports, even the letter the October 7th letter. This guy, I mean, he's there for all of it. And now he's asked about what the origins are. He says Papadopoulos was not even on my radar when I left in January 2017. Papadopoulos was not on my radar, is what he says. And now the FBI is saying that Papadopoulos was the reason that they opened the entire investigation. This is the reason that Tulsi Gabbard's coming in. This is the reason that Pam Bondi's coming in. This is the reason that Ratcliffe is coming in. This is the reason that Kash Patel's coming in.
For the investigation and the revelation about George Papadopoulos, which was not a name on my radar scope when I left, may I think also was another factor.
May have, I think, also as another factor. May have also, I think, as another factor. This guy was Director of National Intelligence. I'm going to tell you what that means. The Director of National Intelligence, what that office, why that office was created, and why they're afraid that Tulsi Gabbard is nominated to be the head of Director of National Intelligence. We'll get back into this on Friday. Hope you guys have a great week. I'll see you on Friday.